Hey everybody, it's Bree here. Just wanted to check in with you regarding the Destiny channel. I'm glad that you are still watching the videos and checking out the different topics that I am providing for you. Tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about loving God versus liking God. It was an interesting topic that came up for me in my life along my journey and my walk with God, and which is not a perfect walk. I don't know anybody that has a perfect walk. If you do, then you are Jesus, and that means you don't sin. And I have yet to meet that person. So, anywho, I've been on a journey with God for a long, long time, and I hit a point in my journey where I found it easy to pray. I take that back. It was a hard season. I take that back. It was not easy to pray. I prayed. I was mostly consistent with that part of my walk, but then when it came to like reading the word, it was a little bit more of a challenge. And it was challenging because for whatever reason, actually probably for many reasons, I kind of had a hard time trusting God. And I was dealing with a lot of doubt at the time, dealing with just different issues. I had a lot of stuff going on. I was going through my crucible season in my life. And as a result, I just kind of like, I wasn't as in tune with God as I knew I could have been. My prayers weren't as like fierce and as strong as I known that they could have been. My reading was not as diligent or as steadfast as it could have been. I loved God, but I didn't like God. And I laugh when I say that because it was like this revelation moment. And I actually heard a little bit about this from TD Jakes, which kind of sparked this topic. But it was really challenging for me in that season to like God. And the reason was because my heart had been broken and things were just not going in the direction that I thought they would. I felt like I was knocked down, but not knocked out. And there were just some things that I didn't understand anymore. And I'm like, Lord, you told me this, but this happened. Or why is this happening to me? Is this really worth all this stuff? You showed me this, but now it's over. What is going on? I got slayed on a whole nother level. It was just like, it was just so like, it was bad. I dealt with depression. I dealt with isolation. I dealt with all kinds of stuff during this season. And I broke free from a lot of things. And I loved God, but I didn't like God. And I was truly being tested in my faith and in my walk and in my devotion to God. And so there was a day that I had seen this sermon, particular sermon by T.D. Jakes, and he was talking about that whole thing about being tested and being pruned by God. And I knew that was my journey. I knew that everything that I had gone through was necessary for my growth and for my maturity in my walk with God. And what happened was I had hit a point where I just got stuck. And I just didn't want to do what the Lord was telling me to do. I just kind of wanted to jump ship. I just kind of wanted to give up, be like Jonah. And I always used to say, if I were to be done with all of this and stop believing, not God, but believing what he promised me, I said I wouldn't jump the ship. I would just walk back to the land on water because my faith is already at that level. But I would just be like, forget it. I'm done. Whatever. I don't need to sink in the water, know how to walk on water. I'm gonna just go right back to the land. But God's not having that, right? But anywho, I noticed that I was coming through the season of testing and being tried in different areas of my life, in some very deep areas of my life that hadn't been tested before. So it was really like annoying that God was like, I felt like he was picking on me, that he wouldn't let me up, that he wouldn't like release me to go like do these amazing things he told me to go do because I wasn't enough in my mind. I was like, I wasn't enough, I wasn't worthy, or whatever the case may be. So long story short, I had started noticing that when it came time for me to read my word, which usually is something I would do every day or at least multiple times in a week, I noticed that I would look at it. I might read a sentence or two, like a verse or two, and not get much out of it. But I noticed I was like looking at the word, right? And I would look at it and then I'd be like, and then I'd pray. Okay. And it was like this resistance to reading the word. And I was very much like, hold up, did I just roll my eyes at the Bible? Like, what? Did I really do that? Am I really being this resistant right now? And the answer was yes, I did that. And yes, I was being that resistant because I was a little upset with God. But I couldn't pinpoint to what it was because I had been through so much. So I began praying and acknowledging, Lord, and just being vulnerable with God. Like, look, right now I'm skimming your word, but I'm not reading it. I'm not studying it like I know how. And trust me, if you are a believer, you will go through this season of your life. Do not act like you're just holier than thou. You always got the word and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure you've had a fabulous walk, but if you're going to sit there and say at some point in your life that you weren't really interested at some point, you will lie. I'm sorry, you will lie. Either that or you ain't been tested how you should be tested. You probably ain't living as good as you should be. But anyways, because this is a real walk. Real walks are bumpy, they're hilly, and they have valleys too. But going through that season or that moment, I realized I was looking at the word and kind of rolling my eyes and just kind of like talking to God. And I hear him, and I do what he said or not do it, depending on the day. And I got to a point where I was like, wow, I love you, Lord. But I realized I don't like you in this season. And I knew by saying that I had acknowledged my issue. And I come to this conclusion that when you can love somebody and not like them, right? Like there's people in your family that are like that. Probably you got some friends you like, girl, I love you, but I don't like you, right? Or homeboy, I love you, but I don't like you. Maybe it's your significant other. Maybe it's a marital situation. And within that, I realized that love and trust are not synonymous. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on, what? Love and trust are not synonymous. And what that means is that you can love somebody unconditionally and love them deeply, but you don't trust them. But people that you like, you're more willing to trust them because based on, for whatever reasons, you find reasons to believe that they are trustworthy. And so typically love is a deeper rooted concept, of course, as we all know, and like is a more external surface level concept that we deal with. But liking somebody makes a big difference. Okay, you can love somebody and not deal with them. You can love them from a distance, as we say in culture, but you don't like somebody from a distance. At least you don't say that anyways. I don't hear anybody say, I like you from a distance. Usually if you like somebody, you want to be around them and you want to be close to them. You want to be all up in their business. You want them around you. You want them to be close to you. You're feeling their vibe. You like their style. You like the way they do things, you like their swag, and you're checking them out in a different kind of sense, and not necessarily in a romantic sense, but you're checking the person out. You like their character, you like the quality of how they do things, you like that how they do things in excellence. You notice all of these features and factors, and you see their behavior patterns and all these different things, and that's why you like them. But then when you see something contrary to that, or they do something that is very outside of what your boundaries are, or maybe you didn't get what you wanted from them, or they didn't do what you expected them to do, they didn't meet your expectations, if you become disappointed, like that was kind of my situation with God, is that you stop liking them. And when you stop liking somebody, you no longer like their ways or their behaviors. You no longer like what they have to say. You love them. You're not going to leave them. You're not going to leave them stranded, so to speak, but you don't like them enough to want to be around them, to want to see what they're doing, to want to know what they know. You begin to distance yourself. And so loving and liking are two different things. And liking has to do more with trust than love has to. So I just wanted to kick that too, to think about it a little bit. Maybe you are in your relationship with God where you love him, but you don't like him. And I encourage you to review or kind of like go over your reasons why you don't like him in this season, and you'll probably find out it's something that you didn't get that you thought you should have gotten, or or you didn't receive it in a way that you would have preferred, or God didn't do something in a way that you expected and you were disappointed because he didn't meet your expectations, which we know is kind of a backwards concept when talking about God. But it happens because we're human and we make mistakes and we do all kinds of things. So I wanted to share that with you, and again challenge you to really check to see if you love God or if you like God, or both, or one or the other, because it can actually change the dynamic of your relationship. When I figured that out and I was like, Lord, oh my gosh. And I was like, I love you, but I don't like you right now. And I was like, I laughed a little bit because I was like, ooh, I am so sorry. But that's how relationships work. Sometimes you have your ebbs and your flows. And I knew God wasn't mad at me. He was just waiting for me to figure it out. And once I decided to say, I like you, Lord, I knew I had to follow up with, and I trust you again. I trust you again. Even though you are infallible and you cannot do anything wrong, the way I perceived it was wrong. And so because of that, I'm now reigniting my trust in you again, because I'm choosing to like you and I'm choosing to want you. When you like somebody, you want that person around you, and God wants to be wanted by us. So with that, I pray that you figure out, if you are having a bump in the road with your relationship with God, that you figure out what the issue is. If you love him and don't like him, or if you like him but you don't love him, you might figure out there's something there that's missing. And I pray that you get that peace back in your life, that God begins to be the ruler over your heart once again. So with that, peace be to you. And of course, I'm always here to help you take personal responsibility for your soul to take flight into your destiny. So I hope you enjoyed this session right now. And I hope that you choose to like God and love him. Talk to you soon. Bye.